Gal, what was worse, your hernia operation or that game against Southampton?
Well, I wasn't in any pain for the Southampton game. I was just intensely bored. Have you felt intensely bored before? Because it's a bit of an oxymoron. It doesn't make much sense, but it makes complete sense when watching Spurs. Like you say, I had a hernia op, so I was like kind of coming out of that haze. I didn't anticipate how long it would take to get over general anaesthetic. It was much more debilitating than I thought it was going to be. So when you just think, all right, we're 2-0 up, we can relax now. Let's just get on with our day. And then you're like, oh no, we can't relax because Southampton are coming back into it. And oh, they've scored. Suddenly, we don't have to deal with the game that doesn't mean anything, but we have to deal with the deep embarrassment of dropping points potentially to Southampton, which is a uniquely Spursy position, a Spurs position. And, I'm starting to realise why I understand why people laugh at us now. Well, I understand why Tottenham are funny to other people. Because Leicester can't score a goal. They can't. They don't know how to score. They don't know how to win.
They don't even know how to draw, mate. They don't even know how to draw.
I know. Except when they play Spurs. And that is, you say, well, it's, Spursy, Dr. Tottenham. It's real. It's real because it's there in front of our eyes. So,
do you think
weird spot.
Do you think that's fully an us? Because I've always sort of speculated this. Do you think that's fully an us thing, or do you think that other teams are a bit emboldened in the respect that, like, the point I always make is like when Arsenal were bad, they still won a couple of FA Cups, right? And that's because generally they get to the business end of a competition and people are like, it's still Arsenal though, isn't it? It's still Arsenal. Like we remember Thierry Henry and all that era.
Yeah.
They're a good team. But with us, it's suddenly like Spurs, they'll mess it up and people come at us differently.
Yeah, I do. I think it's real. I think it is real because it happens so often, and it happens across football as well. This isn't something that's unique to Spurs. It's unique to Spurs in that we're the biggest club that doesn't win, and it's because of this intangible that we don't win. But Real Madrid win the Champions League all the time, and they do this thing. It's Real Madrid. It's their competition. Like this Real Madrid side that are playing as we record, playing Arsenal this evening, aren't a magnificent Real Madrid side. They're a decent one in respective of what they've achieved previously. But you'd think they'd find a way. And no matter who they're playing, they could be playing the best team in Europe if it isn't them. And you think Real Madrid are going to win in the Champions League. I mean, you see them doing it so many times. So if it's if it's a genuine intangible that people believe for Real Madrid for the positive reasons, then it's the same for Spurs, but in the negative respect. So yeah, and that's why I'm like, that's part of the reason why I'm so upset that this Ange Postecoglou experiment hasn't worked, because I felt like his mentality we had the best chance of changing that. Not that we can't change it in the future, but he regardless of whether you think he's competent or not, he believes that without question that he's the best manager in the world and that Spurs have the potential to be the best club in the world and can beat anyone playing the best brand of football. And it's that belief that's got him into trouble, that stubbornness. But we almost need that kind of that evangelical process in order to get out of this reality that we find ourselves in, have found ourselves in for decades, that we will fuck it up.
It's difficult for somebody like Ange, isn't it? Because he walks out of a situation like Tottenham, coming into it, like you say, with the sort of chest out mentality that he has, and he either looks like it's the end of the Hollywood movie, isn't it? Or he looks like a bit of a fool and he looks like somebody that's completely out of his depth, and everybody picks at the kind of carcass and says, look at him, I can't believe he said this. I can't believe he said he always wins something in his second season. I can't believe people compared his Brisbane Roar team to Barcelona. I can't believe people mention him in the same bracket as Pep Guardiola. But if that first 10 games had continued in the way that they had done and Spurs somehow managed to pull off something miraculous, that's the end of the story, isn't it? That's the end of the Hollywood, the narrative. And you kind of live and die by that. And I can kind of understand why he, much as I don't always agree with it, I can understand why he tries his utmost. And I think he is doing this right now to play the kind of PR game. I think he's quite masterful at that. You know, you had Vince Rigari on your pod, and you've read his book or listened to it.
I inhaled his book. I loved it.
Yeah. But there was a big part on that, wasn't there? That was talking about the fact that Ange is a good manager, but he's great at the PR side of stuff, right? And he's a bit of a, I sort of called I think he's a bit of a slippery fish in some respects, and I know that's tinged with a really negative connotation, but I think it's kind of fair in some respects, especially when you sort of see the way he operated out the end of like his Australia term,
Yeah.
and I know there's reasons why, but I sort of feel like we're seeing that in action right now. I think a lot of what he's doing is laying the foundations of a kind of legacy of somebody who maybe failed on the pitch, but is trying his best now to sort of be this bastion of football and proper football man values. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think this is the first time in his career where he has failed, though. That's the thing, and there's a new ground to him, and he doesn't know how to navigate this. And say he failed, like he did leave the Socceroos, but it wasn't. He didn't leave with his reputation in tatters. He left because of what he perceived to be a lack of attention and respect to football. And the other sports were just obviously the sport of soccer, as they call it over there, was just played not even sixth or seventh fiddle. Literally, no one gave a shit about it, and he loved it. And obviously, in Australia, it all came out of from immigrants, from people from Italy, but also the Greece, as well as the Greek islands and various parts of the Mediterranean, and so their influence wasn't really truly Australian in that, in the same way that rugby and cricket was. Even though the irony of that, obviously, that's neither of those things really belonged to Australia either. But it was certainly football that was sort of, it was almost like what would you call it without being offensive? It was just the lame child.
Yeah.
And he thought it was disrespecting. He thought that I can't go anywhere in this country where that people don't take the sport correctly. So they he doesn't he. It's true though what you say in terms of the press room has been a massive part of his career, and how he handles the press room is one that's helped him get jobs and deflect and motivate his sides. But I just think that what's happened, in similarly how his footballers failed in this country and at this level, in the Premier League level, also he's failed in the press room as well, because he can't control it in the way that he has done previously. And the goldfish nature of football management in Premier League has meant that scrutiny is like nothing else he's faced before. So I think all of this is, and when things are not going well, you know, managers do turn into nutcases, don't they? So I just think, he's he struggled with both things really, and all of this is compounded by poor form in the league. Not just poor form, the worst I've seen in, I can't remember the last time we were this bad domestically. I can't remember the last time we were this bad ever, and that's a problem.
I mean, it's going back a long time, isn't it? That's the
when was it? Tell me.
I think technically it's like 07-08, isn't it? I think it's the season under Hoddle.
Ramos.
Oh, is it Ramos? Okay, all right, that's Ramos.
So Hoddle would have been 2000 and early 2000s. That was the worst team I've ever seen. Poyet, Bunchevchevich, not Redknapp. Ledley King when
Sherwood.
He came out. Sol Campbell just left. Sherwood. Think of Championship Manager 0102.
Yeah, the big baggy, like the long Adidas big baggy sleeves, right?
Yeah, that was the worst team I've seen, I think, more or less. But in terms of performance and deliverables, this has got to be the worst in living memory.
I think because the problem is, right, back then, it was sort of water off a duck's back because Spurs hadn't been good since the 80s, right? But now we've experienced the top of the mountain almost. Come second in the Premier League. We've come second in the Champions League. We've come so close to that I don't think. A lot of people always say you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, but you can't, can you? You can't, and I don't really buy. I'll be interested. How do you feel when people? And I think I'm going to say it. I think it's largely Australian fans who really have a kind of dog in the fight with Ange, who really love Ange, who are now sort of turning this into a Spurs fans are entitled kind of thing. What's to say that Spurs shouldn't finish 16th in the league? What's to say that Spurs shouldn't lose 20 Premier League games in a season. You're just entitled. No, you can't go into a season and expect to not have that happen to you. It's not Ange's fault.
Nah, there's not a manager. There's not a manager of a team whose designs are to finish in the top 6 or top 4 that would survive what Ange survived. It's nothing to do with him. It's to do with you can't lose 20 games in the season, regardless of an injury crisis. The way we've had, you can't. It's not what we never did. We never have. As I'm saying, it's not. I don't know who's really angry about the fact that Spurs fans have slowly turned on Postecoglou, but you've got to look at. You can't be surprised at the fact that there's a conversation when we've lost as many games. It'd be mental if we were all just going, "Yeah, Ange is the one. This is fine. We understand. We're buying in. Give him time." Who fan base in the history of the support has done that for this level of loss? And I am his biggest fan. I'm still getting dug out by the boys on the Fighting Cock for bringing up his book every 2 minutes. Oh, have you read his book? Have you? Yeah, I have fucking read his book. I know more about him than you do. And even I've got to the point where I'm like, it's not working. And there were major examples of why. And obviously I think for me, when the straw that broke the camel's back was the Everton away game. That was the one for me.
Did it annoy you more that he cupped his ears to the away fans at Chelsea, or the fact that he afterwards tried to pretend that he wasn't doing that to like have a dig at the fans? Because like I thought it was, I'll be honest, right? And people say, "Oh, it's purplish." I think it's fairly disgraceful for a manager to do that to the away support in that way. But if he went out afterwards and just said, "They were giving me a bit of stick," I thought I'd give him a bit back, but whatever. It's the heat of the moment. I think I would have sort of rated him for it. But it's the fact that he did that big pretend. What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah, because I think that's what it is. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's just always going to be that kind of bloke, and that's what's got him to this situation. And he's a generally normal human being who is reactive to a stressful situation, and he's thin-skinned, so he's going to be reactive. And he hasn't been exposed to this. He hasn't been exposed to this level of scrutiny and this level of criticism throughout his entire career. And operating at this level is very, very difficult. And it comes with an unparalleled level of criticism in sports management, in football management. It's mental. So, of course, he's going to... I mean, to answer your question, probably, yeah. It would have scanned better if he'd have gone, they were mugging me off, so I thought I'd give him some back. But you say that, and it's really the end, isn't it? That means you've turned. So, like, what?
He admits it. He admits it.
So what? I don't know what he was thinking, other than him just being completely annoyed and rattled at that moment, and so he couldn't control himself. But for a man of his experience, it was just a little bit like, oh God, because I was like, because we have to talk about it, and it's good to like stuff to talk about. But I'd rather be talking about an equaliser and a away support that's starting to galvanise around a team that because we prevented a loss at Stamford Bridge than having to field and talk about and think about the fact that he's directly attacking the fans. Because there's people on social media and gone, well, Conte never attacked the fans. He didn't even know we existed. That's worse.
He didn't. We were amoeba, weren't we? We were like a primordial soup to him. That's all it was. A mesh of just flesh with loads of mouths and eyes everywhere. Do you know what I mean?
We were absolutely nothing to the man. He didn't even know we existed. Whereas at least Ange knows we existed. And that's the thing, is that you got a manager who thought he was better than the football club, and then another manager who's desperate to make it work at the football club. And this is the thing, is I find it distasteful how aggressively people dislike him. Like the insults, the physical insults, talking about his weight, and he's trying his best for Tottenham. He wants to win desperately, and you could argue he wants to win for himself, but it doesn't matter. Whatever.
I thought you meant he's trying his best, as in like he's done Weight Watchers. He's
lost weight. He's
definitely
done lost
carb,
weight.
High fat, high protein. He's done the lot. Yeah, he's giving it a go.
He's doing the best. He's doing the best he can. The thing is, like throughout his entire career, he's put on weight, and he's come to Tottenham, and the stress is so severe that he's actually starting to look better than when he took over. Yeah, man, I don't know. He wants the best for the football club. He wants the best for himself, and those two things are completely they're linked. And I don't understand why some fans with such glee want to insult him. I don't understand it. I don't know where this vitriol comes from a man who's genuinely trying everything he can to win. I know he's not good enough. I understand that his system probably won't win and work, and it would require right now a complete turnaround, which is what I've never seen in football for him to keep his job. I think there's some people out there going like, I'm not sure. Like, there's a guy who tweeted us and said, "I'm Ange until I die," and I'm like, you better start messaging your family, because this is not going to last very long. It's not going to last very long, and you never see it. Like, anyone who's watched football for long enough knows how this ends. So if he was to keep his job, it would be a turnaround like nothing I've ever seen. Like, I've just released a podcast with Andy Brassel, and predicting how Spurs can get through to the final and win the Europa League. And it's clear that he's not a Spurs fan, Andy, because he's way too. He thinks we're going to turn up. he hasn't gone through what we've gone through. So he looks at Spurs on paper and goes, "You're better than Frankfurt. You're a better team. There is no world, really. If you're just looking on paper, tactically better, you're a better side. Frankfurt really shouldn't be able to live with Tottenham." But he's not a Spurs fan, and we know different. So he was.
What is that, though, Gal? Where does that come from? Like, what is that? Where does that come from?
Because
I'm sure you must have this countless times as well, when you talk to other fans all the time and stuff, and there's still that bit of them when they snap out of the mood of like Spursy, all that crap. When they actually want to talk to you earnestly, many of them will always say, "You're a good side though, Spurs. I don't fancy us against you."
Yeah,
and you will always be like, "Mate, you just should. You should fancy yourself against us," because Of course with that. I don't. Where does it come down from? All the time, like, oh, we can't win anything, because I know we can, and we both know we can. Spurs can show up, of course we can, but also Spurs can do the most ridiculous thing as well, right? And you know that to be true.
Yeah. Do you think that we fuck up more than other clubs? It's just that it's become a narrative for us, so it's sort of highlighted.
I think there's a few on there, like I think Leeds are always one of those, aren't they? Where I think they're sort of happening
now, aren't it? Leeds,
they're like a bit of a level down Spurs, aren't they? Sort of messed up in the playoffs however many times, and Leeds are falling apart again.
Yeah, they've drawn the last 3 games they probably won't make having been in. They're Spursy in it up basically. But then I think back at the times where we weren't Spursy, and that Pochettino side was almost, with him as manager, too good to be Spursy. And I was thinking that time with Redknapp, that Champions League run, there was nothing Spursy about that. We got knocked out because Peter Crouch got sent off against Real Madrid 10 minutes into the game against at the Bernabeu. If that was the season, wasn't it? Pretty sure it was.
I mean, that when you say it like that, though, that probably was a bit Spursy, wasn't it?
I guess, but you can kind of just go, well, what can we do? He lunged, he got sent off, but that's different from just not showing up, which is the risk, which is the fear on Thursday, isn't it? Because we've got to win by 2 or 3 goals to stand a chance in Frankfurt, just because of the nature of the beast away from home in that stadium.
Just well-organised team, aren't they? A well-organised, efficient, sort of cohesive attacking unit from everything that I understand about them. And as we've seen across this season, that's the sort of thing that Spurs don't seem to cope too well with. And I think that is one of the bigger concerns, though, like you say. And I think this has been the most chastening part of the Ange Postecoglou project kind of falling to pieces, I think, is that it feels like the players just aren't really up for it anymore.
Do you think he's lost the dressing room, to use a cliche?
It's hard to say, isn't it? It's hard to. The problem is, it's hard to imagine that they're even asked enough to actually have a negative opinion about him. It just feels like a total kind of level of ennui about the whole football club, that they're just sort of listless and just in this mode of I don't know. They just don't look that inspired, do they? They don't look like they're particularly up for the fight. I don't see a lot of fight in them, and that bothers me. That bothers me a lot. It bothers me more when Spurs are like that than when they're actively terrible in some respects. Do you know what I mean? Because like when we're terrible and we're at least seemingly giving it a go, and I think under Sherwood I don't think it's revising history to say that. I still feel like we had a core of players who were at least having a go, but we just weren't very good. We weren't very well coached. We seemed a bit all over the place.
Yeah.
This, I don't know, just doesn't feel like there's a lot of heart in it, which is kind of strange, given like what Postecoglou's like, right?
Yeah. I think I think the fallout this is just the damaged because of having to play through the injury crisis that we've had, and obviously for it to go as bad as it possibly could go while the injuries are not there, in part down to Postecoglou's system, but also a lot of luck. We didn't quite get, the amount of games we've lost by a single goal is significant because, in other games, those would be draws and you might pick up a couple of wins, but we didn't. We just kept losing by a single goal, and that's continued. And just the impact of that period has meant that we've arrived at a position where the players are coming back and the mood around the club is one that's just been defeated consistently 20 times. So I think it's one of those seasons we just got to get out of the way. Like just want it done. Like there's one of the biggest games in recent history on Thursday. So it's almost like, well, obviously we want to be part of the Europa League. We want to be in a position where we can still win it. There's only 8 teams left in a competition that started, what was it, 36? Something like that?
Something, I don't know.
I think it was 36. Yeah, so we're in a position where we can win now, but it's almost like you want to get it done and dusted. Like if the Europa League wasn't here, all of us would have just, would have been on the beach as fans, let alone with the players, and we're just thinking about how do we rebuild and go again next season. But you kind of can't. It's almost like that run in the Champions League, but nowhere near as shit. Where with the domestic form was pretty average then. Do you remember?
Well, that's it, isn't it? Because it's that comparison, isn't it? People keep saying, "Well, Pochettino was terrible in 2019. We finished 4th. We still finished 4th that year.
Did we?
Yeah, still finished 4th 2019.
So 2019 was that when? Was that the year after? When was that? Is that the Champions League?
Champions League final year? We still finished 4th.
Did we?
Yeah,
I remember it being terrible.
Yeah. Right, but it was relatively terrible, but
yeah,
this is relatively abhorrent, and that's kind of the point I keep trying to make. But do you think? I mean, look to turn it off of Postecoglou for a while, because I do get conscious of the fact that I've probably been sitting here for the past couple of months now, just going on about Postecoglou. You to your question there about has he lost the players? Do you think the club have lost the players? Because I look at somebody like Cuti Romero. I look at the relationship there with Tottenham. I think he wants out. I personally think it'd probably be a good time to sell him because whatever, get some money for him. I know he's a great player, but if the relationship's sort of in the mud that it is, then whatever. But we've heard a lot of stuff, haven't we, about Spurs not buying him plane tickets or this and that, and just sort of bitty, petty stuff that shouldn't really be happening between a football club and one of its best players, arguably one of the best players in Europe in world football, right?
Yeah.
But still, we're getting embroiled in this petty nonsense that is anything other than the sort of the signifier of a so-called big club, is it? Right?
Do you believe, like, there's some people that sort of hanging their hats on this idea that the players are kind of having a go at Daniel Levy, like saying like the direction of the football club and talking about signings and it's sort of thinly veiled attacks, or are we just reading into it too much? Like Romero's made comments, and some people that are staunchly unique out have kind of said like that's an example of the player having a go, and Lloris has said some stuff previously. Because if that is true, then there is and it stands to reason that as a group of players that have invested in their own careers, but also invested in the betterment of the football club while they're employees by it, would naturally be affected by how Daniel Levy runs it. So Daniel Levy's he probably just thinks you're an employer, you're getting your paycheck, shut up. I'll run the football club how I think I should run it, which is almost, it's fair in itself. And whether or not he does a good job is another conversation. But, the best players need to be on board with the direction of the football club. And you think about like Abramovich and John Terry and Lampard and Mourinho, and that when those were all together, they were unstoppable because of various reasons. But it was like they were all on board. Where at Spurs, it seems to be like this disjointed, sort of fragmented, group of individuals that are not aligned at all. So, yeah, I think I couldn't give it. I'm not fond of Romero. I think he's a great defender. He's probably our best defender. I'm not fond of him.
And I wouldn't be upset if he. The thing is, I understand objectively he's a good player, but it doesn't fill me with any sense of dread. The idea of him leaving the football club, I don't think, in the same way that it did when Gareth Bale was getting linked with a move away, when Harry Kane was.
He's one of your lot, though, isn't he?
He is one of my lot, but that's
Don't you feel like you don't feel like you need to protect him because he's Argentine?
Not in the slightest, mate. Nationalism is for the weak-minded. That's it.
One of your lot.
I tell you, this is the thing I find is that there's a bit of a catch-22 with Spurs in that, like you say, when the players are, if they are having a dig at the club or not, it was. I'll give you a better example. Conte, when he came out and he was sitting down and he was slagging off the club every other week.
Yeah.
People say, well, he's just speaking the truth, isn't he? A lot of what he's saying is what we all say. It's like, yeah, but it's like me slagging off my dad and someone else doing it is two very different things, right?
Yeah.
And when this happens with the play, the problem for Spurs is, and this is kind of part of like the shield that Ange Postecoglou will have going forwards, and whatever. I wish him all the best. If he goes and lands a job in the Bundesliga, gets a Dortmund job, something like that, fair play to him. Good luck. I hope he doesn't win anything, because it'll make us look silly. But still, if he does, whatever, it's not going to keep me up at night. But because of Spurs and the way that they are and the sort of the attention that is upon us, it always provides players, managers, whoever, with a pre-baked excuse. Well, it was Tottenham. It was Tottenham. That's why they couldn't do anything. So it does. It's a double-edged sword. Like I say, it irritates me when players come out and say, "Well, what was I supposed to do at Tottenham? What was I supposed to do?" Harry Kane said it recently, right? Being at Bayern now, he was all like, it was something to the effect of, "It's great now to be surrounded by all these wonderful players, and it feels like you're not the only one having to do it all on your own." That's not verbatim, but that's essentially the point he was making. And you think, all right, that's fair enough for the past maybe couple of years of your Tottenham career. But for a long time, mate, you were surrounded by some properly world-class players. But no one will question it. No one will question that type of thing. And no one will question players because they can go off. Like, they can go off.
They constantly go off and win stuff wherever they go.
They go off and win stuff. But the lens is never put on, why didn't you win? Why didn't you do more to win something when you were wearing a Tottenham shirt? Why do you get to just walk out and say, that was the club's fault? Well, that was in your hands. If anything, the fans get it more. But you're not lacing up and running out there on cup final day, trying to get one in the back of the net. That was Harry Kane's job. And he hasn't done that, has he? And now he sits there in Germany selling his shit football boots because he's got roped into another shit commercial deal. They don't sponsor you at all, do they? I am and I'm not. I want him to win the Champions League, but it just like I say, it irritates me when people have a pop at the club, because as much as I want to do that, it still annoys me when other people do. And it annoys me when other people blame their failings just on this. Well, it was just Tottenham. It was the club. It was in your hands. Ex-players.
No, that side, that 2016 side was good enough and should have won the league, and it should have won cup competitions. And sometimes, well, not really. I don't really believe in that. I don't think it's a real thing, really. I think it's the chairman's in the same way a manager's job is to set the team up to get the ball in a position where an individual can do something to score a goal, right? So everything up to the point where the ball is struck towards goal is the manager's job, and you bring players in that can best implement that plan. Daniel Levy's job is consistently supply the manager and the coaching staff and the director of football with the incentive and funding in order to get the club into a position where it can win trophies or attempt to win trophies. No one is saying Daniel Levy, Ange Postecoglou, Pochettino before him, you need to win. No one's saying that. What we want is for us to be competitive and have a glimmer of hope and think that it's within reason that we can win a cup competition or challenge for the league. That's what we want. I don't think there's any Spurs fan out there going, I want Daniel Levy to guarantee us league trophies. There ain't. Even the staunchest haters of Daniel Levy accept the fact that he can't get us over the line. He can get us into a position where the club is set up to challenge. And that's what his job is, and that's what he's failing to do. But win trophies in that game in 90 minutes, that's the job of the players. That's the job of the manager, and it's the job of Harry Kane to turn up when he was at Spurs, and he didn't. So, there is an element of frustration, but there is a problem when all of these players leave the football club and win trophies. And Ndombele has 2 league titles since leaving Tottenham. And I know he didn't contribute.
He played about 10 minutes, didn't he?
A bit more than that. But he all right, he wasn't their captain and leading them at the charge on his own. The point is, he's done that and by contributing nothing, has 2 league title medals because he's joined clubs that are set up to win, whereas Spurs are not set up to win. And that's the issue. So it comes from the top down, and you cannot change that. You can provide enough opportunity to win by setting the club up in a way that means that we can be in those situations. But winning, is down to Harry Kane. He should have done it at Tottenham.
If we won a League Cup, say next season, would you want us to celebrate like Newcastle did? Open top bus?
Nah.
No? Lily White all down the Seven Sisters, people on top of buildings, climbing lampposts, dicks out.
We've never done that for a League Cup, though, did we? We didn't have an open top parade in 2008. So in '99, I remember us. I was in Tottenham when we won it. I watched it in the Cockerell pub it was not there anymore, but it was on the High Road. The celebration, it was like the last days of Gomorrah on the Tottenham High Road. After that, we won. It was crazy. There were tits, cocks out, tits everywhere. It was women just walking around with their breasts out because we won the League Cup. It was incredible. But it was within a 2-hour window, and then everyone went home, and you just think about an actual real cup that you want to win. Yeah,
I love
70,000 Newcastle fans on the streets. For me, I was just like, oh my God. I get it.
Get it. What is it, 75 years or something since they won?
Yeah, no, I get that. And I did appreciate the fact that granddads had lived and died and not seen it. That's
mad, isn't it?
Yeah, and that could well be Spurs, but I think no one considers the League Cup to be that.
It was more just winning something, wasn't it? I think,
right?
For them.
But would you do it for like a Community Shield if you finish runners up or something? Would you do that?
No.
Would they? Would they though?
Probably.
They have to now.
Yeah, they've set the standard now, haven't they?
Then
it's got to be bigger. It's got to be bigger next time, or else they don't care. That's
But then who are we to tell them what they should do?
Yeah, it's people having fun at the end. And that's the thing. The sport's supposed to be fun, isn't it? And
but when is it my job as a supporter of my football club isn't to cheer on the fans and hope they have fun, is it? Is it? We're supposed to stop them having fun. Yeah,
to be horrible about it. Look how pathetic you are. At that.
That's our job to say that, and think that, and feel that.
You went for a day out because your team won. So I've got a job, mate.
FA Cup, definitely. Yeah, FA Cup, fine.
Europa League. That's
Mate, I've never. If we win the Europa League, I'm never watching football again. That's it. I don't think I could ever peak. Do you believe it all?
Sorry, I don't.
It's free. It's literally 4 games, and you're in, and it's just, and then it's a shootout. It's a final.
But we'll get Man United. Wait, are they out? No, they're still in it.
I worry more about Bilbao than United.
I think United are going to win it. I think United, because it's just, and
Go back to that intangible thing, isn't it?
This is the point I'm making. Like, it's what they do. It's what clubs like them, these sort of heritage blue chip clubs, they can just do it because people are scared of them, and people aren't scared of Tottenham.
But
They're
Chelsea weren't like that. But they changed it through, oligarchical money.
Yeah, but they did it at the right time, didn't they? The drawbridge got pulled up, and that's kind of it's just how it happened.
They spent their way out of mediocrity, is what I'm saying.
Look at it this way, right? Chelsea, who are having an all right season, they'll win the Conference League this year, right? I think we all know they'll win the Europa Conference League because they got put into a competition which is beneath them. Whatever we think about them, it's beneath them, but they can show up and win a competition that's beneath them. Would you have all great conviction that Spurs could go into the Europa Conference League and win it?
Well,
because we should.
Of course we should. It's fucking tin pot. But people talking about Conte not hating, never turning on the fans. He managed that season when we were in the Conference League and we got knocked out. And it weren't like he was throwing it. He was furious when Mura beat us. Sure, I've never heard of Mura since that game. He was furious. He was our manager.
What happens to? I want to go back to something you were saying about, when we won the League Cup and it's like last days of Sodom and Gomorrah on the high road. What is it that happens to like just it's a game of football, right? But what is it that happens in our brains when something like you were there in Amsterdam? That was bizarre. That was similarly bizarre. One of my lasting memories of Amsterdam was genuinely just lots of Spurs fans, thousands walking around, just going like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god." Nobody knew what to say or do at all. Everybody just walking around saying, "Oh my god," or something to that effect. What happens in people's brain?
Well, that's it. I don't know the answer to that, but I know that when it happens, when eventually we do win, it will be better than anything a Man City fan could ever dream of feeling. Like, we've still got our journey, right? And it may be that we never get to the end of it, but we don't know that right now. And all I know is that, Schrodinger's cat is both dead and alive. I know that because I can't see it. So I don't know what our future is, but I know within its possibility there could be success. So if I believe that to be true, then I know that journey is still to be had. And so when we get to that end and we are successful, it'll be the greater than any. No, there won't be a football fan on earth. Maybe Napoli fans are the closest, but they won the league in the 80s, where you'd understand how you just snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, and despite everything, every signal saying that you're going to win something or be successful, that it fails. When we get there, that same disbelief that you described about Amsterdam will be evident everywhere as well. We'll be like, "Oh my God, we've done it. We've done it." And I just wonder if that sort of, the cliche of people going, "Will you develop a winning mentality?" I wonder if that will happen at Tottenham, that we know how to win. It's no longer Spursy.
Do you see Bill Burr recently? He was he's promoting his new special, and he was talking about how he sort of hit the age. He's in his mid-50s now, and he's like, he's conscious of the fact he's hit the age where men just drop dead. He's saying like, it's just they'll just be on a golf cart somewhere, clutch their chest, and that's it. They're gone.
Yeah.
And as we sort of descend into our 40s, Gal, we get a bit older, and then that sort of that little voice in the back of your head is there. Isn't that bit of you? We talk about all this. Is that bit of you ever that sort of thinks this might be one of those things that you might go a couple of years later, Spurs win the double again, and everyone's lamenting, being like, "Gal would have loved this.
Yeah,
I would have loved this."
No, I mean, there's a reason why people get more angry as they get older, is they realise they're losing time to experience it. Like, my dad has seen Spurs win everything, European Cups. He's seen us beating Real Madrid. He's watched the Cup double. He's watched the double in '61. He's seen everything, and even he's frustrated now. because he's in his 70s and he's wondering whether or not he'll ever see Spurs win everything again. We've seen nothing. We've seen one FA Cup, and we're getting to the age where we could drop dead on the golf course. Like no one, people. We're reaching an age where someone's going, right. Oh, did you hear Flav died? He had a heart attack.
I don't know why that. It's just I don't know. Because it'd be Ricky. It would tell me.
If that happens to me and you don't laugh, I'm going to be fuming with a pair of you. Yeah, Flav's dead. Do you hear Flav? He had a heart attack on a golf course. I didn't know he played golf. I know, not that. Yeah, he's dead. Well, how old was he? 43. I know it's young, but it does happen. Like it could.
Yeah. Well, if it was me, it'd be like he was quite overweight, wasn't he? Do you know what I mean?
It's like, yeah, but you're missing the point. He didn't see Spurs win anything. We're running out of time.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not talk about like diet or anything like that.
Yeah, like that. What we can possibly experience by winning something is the purest form of ecstasy, and having that moment, like that one in Amsterdam, or Alan Nielsen heading in '99 for the League Cup. That isn't something that can be replicated very easily, or if at all. That unbridled euphoria and ecstasy that isn't drug induced, that you're sharing with hundreds of thousands of strangers around the world, if not millions, is a incredible feat. It's something that on your deathbed you'll think about. I remember that moment that I felt that way. And it really is up there with things like getting married, falling in love, having children, I'd imagine, if I had them. All of these sort of markers that tell you that you've had a happy and wholesome life. Beating Arsenal 5-1 in the League Cup is up there. It made me feel that. And that may sound stupid. I want to feel it again.
Dean Malbronk sweeping it in the far post. You know what I mean?
Oh, mate. It's 2000. It's still, I watch it every now and then. Like,
who was it? Was it Tilsley on the commentary? And it's glory, Tottenham Hotspur. The Spurs are on their way to Wembley, and I'm like, fuck,
yeah.
Well, tears streaming down my face,
mate. So if you remember, the subtext to this is a good game to discuss because of the it's where we find ourselves generally as a Spurs fans, and Tottenham as a club that we don't win. In the precursor to this, we've drawn Arsenal in the League Cup. Similarly, or on a barren spell, but we didn't beat Arsenal at the time. This is an Arsene Wenger team not long been invincible. So they had a really, really good side. There was we weren't favourites at all, and we'd managed to get we performed really well at the Emirates a week before, and we were winning 1-0, and Theo Walcott scored in like the 81st minute, if I remember rightly. And you remember watching that game going, I think we can beat these at home. I remember thinking it. But the closer you got to the game, the more you thought, well, I thought it was more, I'm hoping we win rather than I believe that we can win. And I remember walking home from work. I used to work in Muswell Hill, and I'd walk home and then before getting the bus over to Spurs. And I was listening to the Smiths, and I was listening to Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want This Time. And I was just like, just for once, just let's beat them. And it kicked off, and Jermaine Genius scored that goal within, 2 minutes? Was it something like that? It might have been the first minute. And it was started, and it was beautiful. In off the post, Spurs 1-0 up. Really got a foothold. And the noise in that stadium was sensational. And we got a free kick on the left-hand side. And I don't know who took it. I can't remember who crossed the ball. I want to say Jermaine Genius. I think Jermaine Genius crossed it in. But the White Hart Lane was rocking. And whenever we played Arsenal, it was always loud anyway. But we were singing "Oh When the Spurs," but really slowly. Remember, we used to sing it properly, not like we barely sing it now anyway. And it came in, and suddenly you stopped singing. There was a hush. And I think Dawson leapt, but it came off their defender. I don't remember who scored the own goal. Might have even been Bentner, not sure. And the ball went in the net, and I was like, it's 2. The place fucking erupted. And then obviously we ran away with the game pretty much. But it was like getting everything you hoped you would get and more. And like I say, I can't replicate that again. I haven't been able to. I've never felt that good following Spurs or watching Spurs again. It's very much the zenith of my following of the football club. So to have that again, or the possibility of that by winning something, we've got it all to come, fingers crossed.
I think a season like this as well, like as much as this has been in the mire, it's almost like a bit of a reset, because the funny thing is, and it sounds quite mad to say, but we got so good for a while and we beat Arsenal with a certain like regularity that I think we'd be lying if we said they all felt as special as nights like that, right?
Yeah.
It's still always a good feeling beating Arsenal. I can't ever take away from that. But like you say, that all-encompassing sort of buzz you got from like games like that 5-1. And I think games like Amsterdam, like the Champions League semi-final, I don't know about you, but I almost feel like it legitimately sort of broke my brain a bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I sort of feel like it was just such a high that it was very hard to get anything close to that from watching Spurs again, aside from maybe going that next step.
I think if we did it this season, and it's not, we are better than every team in this competition.
Yeah, we are.
We're better than them. And like I said, like Andy Brassel has no dog in the fight, has said this. We are the best team in this competition. What even though we're 16th in the league, we are the best, he said. Tottenham are the best. So we could do this, right? But, it's just things, what we've learned behaviour would suggest that we're protecting ourselves or just don't have much hope. But if we win the Europa League from this position, I think that's going to be very, very special. And he keeps his job, doesn't he?
He has to. You can't
walk away from it.
Maybe, but you cannot get rid of a manager that's just won you a major European trophy.
Why?
You can't. Because it's just
not right.
Because what happens, right? We get rid of he wins the Europa League, we get rid of him, and we bring in Thomas Frank over the summer, and we finish 12th. Everyone will be saying, "Oh, what Daniel Levy did? He got rid of a manager that did, that. All right, they had a bad league season, but he showed that he could.
He's a winner.
Change the mentality at Spurs.
There's no world he could sack him. He didn't want to. I don't think he wouldn't want to sack him either. He wants him to win it so he can kind of avoid this situation.
I'll be honest, I'm not even entirely convinced we are going to sack him this summer. That's the thing. I think we probably will, but I'm not entirely convinced we're going to get rid of him this summer.
I know what you mean, because it kind of feels like it would have happened already. I think that they're putting a lot of stock in, and they should to a certain degree put a lot of stock in how bad the injuries have been this season. That we've said this on another part. I think I might have even said it to you, Jackie. They brought him in to do a job and play a certain brand of football, and that's what they said he was going to do. So they can't be surprised when he did that, despite the injuries, because you knew what you were buying. You knew what you're bringing in and hiring, rather. You're hiring a manager that plays a certain way, that thinks about football. In that initial interview, he would have said, I'm unflinching in my ideas. And he said this, and we all knew this. So it wasn't a surprise when he didn't change, when the injuries would suggest that it might have been the best thing to do. So actually, Daniel Levy can't really look at him and go, well, we're going to fire you. What for doing exactly what I said I was going to do when you hired me? So they might be looking at it and going, well, it was injuries. The fallout to that, these players aren't fit. Solanke looks like half the player that he was before he got the injury, so that might have impacted him. They might be thinking, let's give him another summer. And there are people listening to this who will hate this, like Alex from Bristol and Cal of the Fighting Cock podcast. They hate him to a point where it's excessive, in my opinion. But there is a world where he definitely starts to manage. He starts as coach, and I wonder how Spurs fans will feel about that. If we get knocked out, maybe not. But if we go deep further in the competition, I think he may, like you say, start the year next year, and just got to accept it if that's the case, I guess.
Like, I want to try sort of bring this to close on a happier note, I guess, Flav, because you asked me if I believe, and I gave you a pretty blunt no. But do you believe? And if so, can you help me to believe? I need to. I need something to cling on to.
Do I genuinely believe we can win the Europa League? Of course we can. Will we? If we beat Frankfurt, then I think we'll win it, because it will give us that. Make no mistake, Frankfurt are going to be very difficult. If we beat them at home, we can beat them 2 or 3 at home. We can do that, right? If the ground's going to be, it's going to be a European night. It's going to be special. That extra 10% these players are going to have. Our record in Europe this season has been very good. It's been, we've lost 1 game in all competitions, 2 games. No, one Galatasaray away. Don't think we'd lost another one. So we lost 1 game, and that was the only one we've lost by significantly all season, I think. Anyway, so we've lost 1 game. That cauldron atmosphere, Galatasaray, they're a really good side. It happens. So if you look at our performances against these opposition, despite what's happened in the league, we've actually been pretty good. So if we can get 2 or 3 goals against Frankfurt and go into the away leg with something to really hold on to against a side that's going to have to really push, that we might be able to hit them on the break and play a certain way. But getting through that away game in Frankfurt with the cauldron, the noise and the difficulty of that, if we get through that, that will be a massive statement, and players will start to believe, and the mood will change, and they know that if we can win there through over 2 legs, Lazio are going to be much less of an issue, in my opinion, because it isn't about quality. Lazio, you'd argue, if you believe people that know much better than me, are a better side than Frankfurt. But are they better than Tottenham? No. So we can beat them if we can go to Frankfurt and deal with what they had to deal with, what they had to throw at us. Then we can definitely go to Rome and deal with Lazio, and then it's just a final against Bilbao. And fuck them. Do you know what I mean? What, they got 1 player, Nico Williams.
Yeah,
who I'd definitely take. Yeah, of course we can do it. It's the Europa League, mate. Rangers got to the fucking final. Rangers got to the final of the Europa League. It's not
Rangers.
You know, if they can get there, bunch of sweaties, then we can definitely get there. Yeah, that's fine. You can say whatever you're about Scottish if you want, I think.
I liked I liked when Ricky went to the Rangers game, didn't he? And he was really complimentary of all the Rangers fans. And then he started getting people questioning why he was like caping for such an openly sectarian football club and everything.
What, he started getting heat, did he?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, you're not allowed to say anything about Rangers. I mean, full disclosure, I think I prefer Rangers than I do to Celtic, but I know that Celtic are like the goodies and Rangers are the baddies. In the same way that Spurs are the goodies and Arsenal. Who do you think, like, definitely, like, you know, politically, you're looking at Celtic and you're thinking, in the battle between good and evil, it's probably Celtic that are on the good. But I kind of like Rangers because of that. But what if Spurs are there? Who are the goodies and the baddies of Arsenal?
I think we're probably on an even keel, Spurs and Arsenal, aren't they?
Do you think politically? I think we're the baddies.
Do you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
maybe. No, because they've had loads of redundant. They sort of made loads of players redundant.
They're literally playing
There's an unnamed footballer of an unnamed 28-year-old footballer playing for them as well.
Yeah, that is pretty bad. That's bad than just sort of voting Tory. It's worse than voting Tory, isn't it?
It's bad because they've actually they've not just kind of played him and just sort of swept it under the rug and thought, let's just not talk about it. They've actually really built up the unnamed player as well. Do you know what I mean? They've really backed him. The manager's really backed him.
Yeah.
And I think that reflects very badly on him.
All right, so we are the goodies.
I think they are. Yeah, I think they are goodies. And I think
neutral.
But I think we're both what I've seen people describe. I saw it was just one tweet somewhere. I saw this guy one time say when it was the aggregators like Troll Football or Sport Bible, all that, and they'll say who you got for this tournament type thing, and a few people say Spurs, and I saw this person say, nah, not Spurs. They're a Wally outfit. Wally.
No, we've got less Wallies than Arsenal, I think.
Yeah, but I thought that was just quite a nice way of putting it. So, in short, we can win the Europa League, but we're probably not going. I didn't realise, Frankfurt are third in the Bundesliga. I thought they were a lot lower than that. I thought they were.
It's fucking.
I thought they were about 6th or 7th or something, but they're way off. They're 20 points off Bayern, but they're still 3rd in the Bundesliga, which is.
I don't respect it as a competition. So you can
They've lost 8 games as well.
I asked just a final plug for the lab. I asked Andy Brassel because the best way is like compare. What are they like? Compare them to a side in the Premier League. Like where would they finish in the Premier League? And he said they're like Palace. So if that makes you feel better.
Haven't we lost to Palace?
Yeah,
twice.
Yeah, of course we lost to Palace. But I'm just saying, that if we were in a League Cup semi-final against Palace, how would you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I'd back us especially in a cup game. You know, two legs, cup game.
Just imagine they're Palace.
Should we have it? Let's do it. Let's have it.
Yeah.
Obviously, everybody knows you from the Fighting Cock, Flav, but as you keep, you have been plugging the lab. I'm a big fan of the lab. I like it. It's like it's your grown up podcast, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, because exactly. Yeah, I just I love. I'm 43 now. And like I said, I'm a couple of years away from the golf cart, dying on a golf cart. So how many times I don't necessarily want to just be known for squeezing in wank jokes. And I actually enjoy it. There's basically, you can't just stick people on the pod, on the Fighting Cock or whatever, like Andy Brassel. It just doesn't work. So the lab was like an opportunity to do that. And I just thought Extra Inch were getting too big for their boots, so I thought I'd steal some. I remember going out for a drink with Bardi, and Bardi was like, "What are you doing with the lab?" And I went, "What? Nothing." And he went, "All right, well, it's just a bit similar as all." What are you doing? What are you planning? No, it's just a bit more grown-up conversation.
Is that turncoat anyway? I swear he was fighting cock, wasn't he? What's he doing?
I don't know what he did. I'd say
split off, joined another podcast.
Yeah, he didn't even look back. He didn't even look back. Didn't even look back. That's the lab, and then I've got the pod to do with HLTCO, Dan. It was my favourite thing about doing that pod is just listening to him getting so angry about Twitter. Like he gets so wound up about social media and people having the abuse he gets is unreal. Like it's unbelievable. And he's not. Well, I say to him, like, just ignore it. Like, don't you can't. There's so much abuse or so many messages that you just gotta let it go. But he doesn't. He quote retweets it and says, "Look at this guy being a." So he goes after them, which I admire as well. But yeah, so there's that podcast as well.
Quite liked on that. Look, I'm saying this at the end of the pod as well. So if you want me to cut it out, I can. But I think it was behind one of your behind the paywall pods, and somebody sent in a question for the Q&A pod or something. And it was basically like, not for the Fighting Cock, but next time you're on a pod with Dan, can you ask him something like, would he rather whatever bum his mum, or would he rather Palace won something? And you're just like, I'm really not on that level with him, mate. I'm not like I can't bring that energy to Dan at all.
No, it's not. Yeah, you've got to know someone. Like this is a working relationship. Like, don't get me wrong, get on, but it's not like. Yeah, I can't ask him stuff about his mum, for fuck's sake.
You can't ask him the what is it, 2 inches backwards or 2 inches forwards conundrum.
Not yet. Not yet. I might do, because he is quite. He's well into his Palace. And it was interesting actually listening to other fans, like having football conversations with someone that isn't a Spurs fan, and just to kind of how a bad result manipulates another fan of another football club. And it's just the same for everybody, really. It's just
I do like that. I like the fact that you've managed to. I think it's your influence. You have managed to sort of get under his skin a bit and make him realise that Spurs do seem to be like subject to like a different level of scrutiny in some ways. And I do think he tries to reflect that somewhat, even on Twitter. Like he goes out and bats for us, and I kind of admire that about him.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because of the pod or he just likes he doesn't mind us, but he's definitely. I constantly the conversations had that there is this sort of weird agenda against the club that is sort of by osmosis he's starting to believe as well. But he's good. He's not. I mean, he just loves his football, and it's interesting to get someone like him outside of who has so many opinions about football, there to talk about Tottenham and see what he says and if it marries with what we're thinking. But he's definitely he thinks Ange should be sacked immediately. He said he should have been gone months ago.
Man. Right, Flav, thank you very much. Everybody
Pleasure.
knows, you listen to Flav on the Fighting Cock, listen to him on the Lab, listen to him on Lads Anonymous as well. I can't really believe I didn't even mention that, but
Yeah.
Lads Anonymous, lovely pod, you and Ricky, two old friends shooting the shit. Just I love it, mate. It's
Cheers,
part
mate.
of my weekly
It's all
routine.
Ricky. It's all Ricky.
It's fun. But it's good for it's like kind of knowing you lads a bit as well. Just some of the conversations I hear you having, it really it can really set me off sometimes. So yeah, it's lovely stuff. But thanks for coming on, mate. And
I'll do it again soon, Jack. And like I said, on the Fighting Cock as well. It'd be amazing.
Lovely jubbly. Lovely.
Lovely job.